All right, let me make sure I am live here. Let me know if you guys can see me and everything. Let me know if you can see the chat. You get the chat. Let me just run a test here in the chat. Cool. All right. Looks like we are good to go. While you guys are getting in here, feel free to drop some questions into the chat. Let me know. Appreciate you guys letting me know you can hear me, see me. Yeah, let me make sure that everything is working properly. What do you guys normally drink when you guys are just hanging out? I've got a Jocko Go energy drink. The what is this? This is the sweet tea lemonade flavor, one of my favorite flavors. It's got a little bit of caffeine in it, nothing crazy, but when I'm chilling out, I like drinking one of those. Sometimes an electrolyte drink if I've been sweating a lot. I've been outside training dogs all morning. You guys been training your dogs this morning, hanging out with your dogs? What are y'all doing? Feel free to drop questions down below. So this morning we just released our snake aversion training video. That was basically a breakdown of our last clinic where we have Jason bring all of the venomous snakes out. So he brings the snakes out and we'll do training on the snakes that he has. So in that video, I basically go through snake aversion training. Let me know what you guys think about that whenever you have a chance to watch that. And of course, if there is content and stuff that you guys need us to make videos about, let me know. Also, with my camera angle today, you might see Bane walking around a little bit behind me. Water drinker. I drink a ton of water. Yeah, I like tea too sometimes. Do you like brew your own tea or you like pre-packaged tea? Sometimes I'll brew like a white tea, and then sometimes I'll just get like a sweet tea from somewhere. Just depends on what the mood is at the time. But yeah, so we're working on all that content stuff for you guys. Of course, appreciate all the comments, all the feedback. Again, if there's something that you need us to look at in particular, let us know. I do remember that this past week someone did comment on a video. I think it was about like dog fighting, and they were saying that they found a lot of value from how to break up a dog fight or how to stop dogs fighting in your own home. So information like that is good to hear. And the person was asking for a checklist. We do have our free 6-step checklist. If you go to the bio on the channel, you can see that checklist and get access to that free 6-step checklist. Bane might start barking here, by the way. You know how dogs are. So yeah, but the main thing that most people that I've worked with this week, I've worked with several people throughout the week. I just finished up a session this morning, and the main thing that I was encouraging these people to start doing with their dog or start getting serious about with their dog is their engagement and eye contact. So let me know what you guys are doing as far as engagement and eye contact in the comments, how that's going for you. But what I find is if you focus on your engagement, if you focus on your eye contact, everything else gets better. Everything else falls into place properly. And so what happens is a lot of people, they don't want to spend the time, especially if they're adopting a dog or if they're training a dog or if they're getting a puppy. Sometimes the engagement and eye contact can take some time to develop to a very high level, especially if you're adopting a dog, right, that has a history. Maybe it's an older dog. A lot of times it can take time at a very high level to get that dog to be engaging properly or to be responding to eye contact properly. And a lot of people, they just want to get to a certain point of training, at least in their head. And I would rather, spend 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I would rather spend a lot of time just doing engagement and eye contact drills to where I can go out into the neighborhood. I can go out, on the street to a local park, wherever that you like going, and make sure that your dog is wanting to pay more attention to you versus other things going on around you. So if I go outside and my dog is more focused on everything that's outside around me versus paying attention to me, that just tells me that I need to work on my engagement, eye contact a little bit more, right? And if you get it to the point where your dog is 90% of the time really wanting to pay attention to you, as you progress through the rest of your training, everything else falls into line very, very easily. Your dog wants to listen to you a lot better, right? So we got a comment here. Eye contact is really good. I'm grateful I started watching as I adopted my 4-month-old, who's almost 5 months old. Nice. It's made a big difference in the training in all aspects. Great to hear that. And so, yeah, 4 months old puppy, you know, that dog's just wanting to do things, wanting to please for the most part. And so getting your eye contact off at the right level is perfect, right? That's the way to do it. And then as the eye contact gets stronger, then I start focusing. Bane is just having a good time behind me. As I get that eye contact stronger, then I'm going to be focusing on leash pulling, right? So I'm going to be doing leash pressure training where I gently pull on that leash, right? This is your dog's shoulder. This is the leash. You gently pull on that leash. Your dog's going to fight it at first. But as soon as your dog moves with the leash, you say good, you reward. You say yes, you reward repetitiously. Then once you start pulling on that leash, the dog moves with the leash without even resisting at all, without even thinking at all. And at that point, your dog is moving with the leash, not against it. That's when your leash pressure is done. And usually you can do that in 1 or 2 sessions, maybe a couple of sessions. It's no big deal. But once your dog starts moving with the leash, not against it, everything else is easier, right? So the whole progression of starting with eye contact and engagement, moving to your leash pressure next, right? That progression and going from there is all layered upon each other to all complement each other as you continue to train with your dog. And then after the leash pressure is done, you know, I'm going to be working on, you know, muscle memory for obedience. That'll be the next big thing. And that's a thing that a lot of people get wrapped up about, right? They think obedience, I have to say a word. My dog should respond to the word. That's not necessarily the case with a puppy, you know, or even an older dog, right? You have to make sure that your dog understands what movement, what they should be doing when you say that word. So if I say sit, your dog just doesn't instinctively know that that word means to actually move into a sit position. That's something that you have to teach them. So you say sit, you pause for a second, you get a food reward, right? You move your dog from wherever position they're in into a sit position, right? So let me stop my ramble here. We got some questions. We got some comments here. Let's see this one. My dog loves playing with a tennis ball or tug toy. I want to incorporate the tennis ball or tug toy as a reward while training or out on our walks. Just want to do it the right way. Same person said, also noticed my engagement getting better when I switched my treat rewards from regular treats to small pieces of cut up hot dogs. It made him want to watch me more. That's a good point. That's a good point. Sometimes you have to change up your rewards themselves to figure out what that dog wants. Now, I do use cut up hot dogs for the most part. And what I do is I air fry them or I put them in my oven and I roast them just to get that grease off the hot dogs. I'll put them all in a gallon Ziploc bag. I store them in my freezer. I take them out of my freezer. I put them into my bait bag, and that's going to be used in my training sessions. But I have been experimenting with these canine meats, and this is the raw beef one. My dogs are loving that, and so what I'll be doing is I'll be using hot dogs sometimes. Sometimes I'll be using canine meats. I'll do other things as well. I have a dog in training right now. You know, very sweet dog. She's a young dog. Did not want hot dogs, which actually surprised me. Canine meat she would eat, you know, 80% of the time. What I ended up doing was I went down to the store. I got some cheap steak, cut it up into, you know, 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch pieces, put it into the air fryer, roasted it. And then that's what I was training with for a while. I did that for a couple of days. And she was really engaged with the steak, obviously. And then I switched her from the steak to the canine meats and the hot dog mix. And then she's been taking food rewards ever since. So sometimes what you have to do is, you know, start off with a certain reward. Like in my case with this dog, the steak. It's a very high value reward. It gets the dog in the habit of taking food from my hand. because the hot dog or the canine meats in the first place was not enough to get the dog to want to take food from my hand. So I had to develop that habit. Once the habit developed, then I could switch to my normal food rewards. And the reason why I would switch to my normal food rewards is because they're cheaper and I've already got a bunch of them ready. So let me go back to this question real quick right here. My dog loves playing with tennis ball or tug toy. I want to incorporate the tennis ball or tug toy as a reward while training or out on our walks. Just want to do it the right way. So I definitely will use toys as a reward as training is progressing. I don't do it at first. I want to make sure I basically get through off-leash training, distraction training. I want to get through that level of the progression, which if you watch one of our recent videos, I did step through, it's a podcast, I stepped through the 12-step progression that we have. And in the 6-step checklist that we have, I've basically taken those 12 steps and I consolidated them into 6 to try and make it as easy as possible to at least get started. But I'll use the toy rewards as a way to proof training for dogs that are interested in toys later in training. I still prefer food rewards at the beginning. And the reason for that is food rewards, I can get repetitions in very, very quickly. I can practice things very quickly. Lots of repetitions in to build behavior, solidify behavior. Then later when the behavior is solidified and I'm proofing behavior and distraction training, then I'll start training with toys. And with toys that you can get repetitions, but you know, it takes longer to complete a repetition. There's rules to the game of playing tug or playing ball, you know, and I've done videos on this. I've done a whole series on the playlist for a tug toy. So check those out on the channel. But I'll use those toys as a way to proof the training. And then I'll basically, once I'm on maintenance phase of training, I'll use toys sometimes. I'll use food reward sometimes. Sometimes there's no reward, right? It's a random reward. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is, if you're playing all the time, you know, playing ball all the time, playing tug all the time, just keep in mind that it's going to have some wear and tear on your dog's body. And so to prevent excessive wear and tear, then I'll kind of balance it out. So I might be doing tug toy and ball toy 2 to 3 times a week for sessions. The rest of the week might be food rewards or no rewards. It just depends on the level of training that your dog's at and where they're at in your training progression. Let me know if that answered your questions or if you have follow-on questions from that. Okay. Do you think household tether to person training in the house helps with loose leash walking? So yes, if I'm tethering a dog to me in the house, it's not necessarily going to directly impact the dog walking on a loose leash, but it does directly impact the dog learn to want to pay attention to me more. You do have to be careful if you're only doing household tethers to yourself in the house and there's no healthy separation going on, you can actually induce some separation anxiety. So you want to make sure you still have periods where you have healthy separation with your dog, a short kennel session, you know, back tying your dog in your house when they're on place or something like that. So just be careful of that. Again, it won't have a direct impact on your loose leash walking per se, but it will help your dog learn to follow you. It will help your dog to learn to pay attention to you. I would rather your dog be tethered to you versus walking all over the house, kind of getting into trouble, being naughty, as people say. One of my good friends likes to say naughty. So I would rather your dog be tethered to you than be naughty, right? So just keep that in mind. Let me know if that answered your question or if you got a follow-on question. Perfect. Thank you. Also really like your book. Very helpful. Hey, appreciate the feedback. Glad you found it useful. And good to go. Thanks for being here. All right. Next up, we have Christina. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing well. I rescued a Rottweiler last year from a breeder, and he is very unpredictable. Lately, he is showing aggression towards people when I walk him. Okay. Couple questions. Okay, you rescued him from a breeder. So was the dog just not adopted or not, placed into a home? I have a couple, is the dog, how did you rescue the Rottweiler from a breeder? Was the breeder like a backyard breeder and they got in trouble and now you rescued a Rottweiler from that situation? Also, how old is the Rottweiler? Those are some questions I have. So if you're listening and you can give me some answers to that, that can help a little bit. But you say he's showing aggression towards people when I walk him. the first thing that comes to mind as soon as you say that is that I need to increase eye contact. I need to increase engagement. And again, the reason why I say that is why, I'm wondering, why is he showing aggression? He could be showing aggression because he's scared, right? He's a little bit nervous. He's a little bit insecure. Someone's walking down the road. He doesn't know how to handle the interaction with a potential person. So instead of, coming into heel position next to you or hanging out, he has learned, I think it's a he. Yeah, he has learned to react, and that gets the other person to stay away. So that could be one of the reasons why he's showing some aggression, some reactivity, right? The other reason could be he's dominant. He's territorial. He wants to control things. That could be what's happening. Because you rescued him, we don't know his age. We don't know everything that he's had happen to him in his previous life right before you got him. So what I do whenever I'm in this situation, which I just adopted an 8-year-old dog myself, and we're going to be doing a video coming up in the very near future about the journey from adopting the dog to what we're doing to some of the things that I've found, through his process of coming into our home and all that kind of stuff. So that, I think that's very good information for a lot of people adopting dogs. And I'm doing a podcast with a rescue coming up, talking about dog adoption. But the main thing about whether you rescue a dog, adopt a dog, if you have a dog that's a little bit older than a puppy, I want you to act like it's a puppy, essentially. A lot of people, they get caught up, they start saying, we don't know what happened to them in their previous life. They say things like, we don't know his history, so we got to be very careful, blah, blah, blah. And so that's fine, but I don't want you caught up in that mindset. I want you to think, we got this dog, now it's time to start working with the dog. I want you to act like the history is nothing. We know nothing about the history anyway. So we're just starting off on a blank slate here. So Christina just gave some additional information. Okay, backyard breeder not placed into a home. Owner didn't want him anymore. He's 5, so a little bit older. So he could have been practicing this reactivity for a while. Food and toy driven, that's a good thing. All right, Christina, so what you're going to do, you're going to start off, you're going to start focusing on engagement. You're going to start focusing on eye contact. And what we're going to do is we're going to detox a little bit. And when I say detox, I mean we're not going to do walks for right now. I appreciate the appreciation. Appreciate you for being here. But we're not going to do walks for right now. Why? Because if we go on a walk and he reacts and we can't stop the reaction, guess what? He's practicing reacting, right? He's practicing reactivity. So I would rather, instead of him practicing reactivity on the walk, I would rather you take that time. Let's say you're walking for 20 minutes, right? I'd rather you take that 20 minutes and instead of walking down the sidewalk or wherever you normally walk, go into, a training area. This could be if you're in a house, maybe your backyard, maybe in your house, maybe in your front yard. If you are in an apartment, could be in a general community area of your apartment complex. If you're in a townhome, could be a grassy area near, your front door, back door, whatever. So whatever your setup is, I need you to figure out what your ideal training area is. And in your ideal training area, there's not too many distractions that are going to, come through that spot. And what you're going to do is you're going to focus on your engagement, your eye contact. You take your boy out there on a leash. You got food rewards in a bait bag around your waist, and you're waiting for him to look right at your face. As soon as he looks at your face, you say, good, you reward. You take a few steps to the left, few steps to the right, right? And you're going to repeat. Wait for him to look at you. Good, reward, take a few steps one way or the other. The reason why we're waiting for him to look at us versus us, beg him or ask him or, hey, buddy, make a noise or whatever to try and get him to look at us. The reason why we're waiting for him to make the decision to look at us is because if we can do that, and this is going to take some time and some patience, but if we can do that, neural pathways in your dog's brain, they start opening up differently. They start, communicating differently in the brain, and the dog begins to associate looking at you with the food reward, right? And as time goes on, the dog looking at you is going to feel rewarding to your dog. It's not about the food. It's about the association that your dog's making to you. So once you have your eye contact and engagement solidified in your backyard, for example, Now I want you to kind of challenge yourself, increase the criteria, go to your front yard, go somewhere, you know, in your living situation, apartment, townhome, house, however you live, and, you know, increase the criteria. So you go into your front yard, there's a little bit of distractions out there. Your dog might look at the distractions, but then as soon as they look at you, good reward, right? And then go from there. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have follow-on questions. We do have a couple videos on our channel that can help you out with that. Next question. My 4-year-old rescue stares and shadows me 24/7 since day one. Adopted her almost 6 months ago. On walks, she loves people, if not running her on bicycles. Cujo behavior with dogs. Okay, get a little sip here. That's pretty good. All right. So, you know, we've been talking about eye contact. We've been talking about engagement, right? But here we have a situation where the dog is staring and shadowing the owner 24/7 since day one. So, question for anybody listening. Do you think that this dog has an eye contact issue? What do you think the issue here is? You let me know in the comments, right? Adopted her almost 6 months ago, 4 years old. Is it okay to use a crate as a correction? I'll get to that question in just a second. On walks, she usually loves people, if not running or on bicycles. Cujo behavior with dogs. So we've been talking about eye contact. We've been talking about engagement, but here we have a dog since day one staring and shadowing the owner. Anybody have any ideas? Let me know in the comments. Let's see how much knowledge you've gathered from the channel, watching the videos and everything. I'll give you about a minute before I go into this one. While you guys are doing that, yep, you hit it right on the head right here. All right, so this person, I don't know if that's your name, Shashavan. Separation anxiety potentially could be the issue. So yes, we have a separation anxiety issue, right? We need to incorporate healthy separation. And this separation anxiety most likely is coming from a root cause of insecurity, nervousness, fear. The reason why I say that is because the dog's 4 years old. Since you got it, since you adopted it, it stares and shadows you 24/7 for 6 months now. So this dog is fearful, it's nervous, it has separation anxiety. And what we need to do is boost confidence in the dog. This is going to be a challenge, right? Because this dog is used to just being glued to you. So check out our separation anxiety deep dive video. But one of the things you need to do, incorporate a crate. Incorporate a crate and do healthy separation throughout the day, right? Little crate sessions. I'm not sure if you're using a crate or not. Feel free, to let me know. But my assumption is maybe you are using the crate, maybe you're not. But healthy separation, right? Use the crate to kind of build some separation between you and your dog throughout the day. Now, with that being said, some fearful dogs, some insecure, some nervous dogs. Okay, you said the only thing we know is she was crated for at least 8 hours a day. We only crate her at night. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to say is a lot of times with the fearful and insecure dogs, they like the crate. All right, so that can be a challenge too because they like it so much, you putting them in the crate isn't really building healthy separation because they like it so much. So your priority is working on place command, working on a downstay. And the reason why this is a priority is because if you can do a place, if you can do a downstay, those give you more tools. Those are behaviors, but they give you tools to help build some healthy separation in a context that's a little bit different than the crate. So you work on your downstay, you work on your place commands. Those are going to be challenging, right? The other thing you do is you work on a heel position when you're walking. That way, when you're walking, if your dog is trying to go Cujo, you say no, you give them a correction once you've taught them the correction progression. But you give them a correction for breaking heel position. And instead of going Cujo on the dog, no, pop on the leash, dog looks at you, good, right? And then you keep walking, right? So the dog is the trigger. There's probably some kind of history with dogs. We don't know what it is, but that's fine. We want to act like there's no history there. We just focus on the basics of what we need to do, build healthy separation, get a downstay, get a place, right? Do our heel position. You know, depending on where you're at, if you're able to use an e-collar later in your training progression, get to your e-collar conditioning so you can start communicating at a distance and off leash. And as you work on these things, your dog's confidence should increase. And once your dog's confidence increases to a certain point, then you start noticing the shadowing effect kind of subside a little bit. Your dog's confidence is growing. Your dog stops becoming so reactive, so far and so forth. So I hope that helps. All right. Is it okay to use the crate as a correction? I'm not sure what your context here is, but I would not use the crate as a correction per se. I would use the crate as a management tool, right? So depending on why you would want to use the crate as a correction, I would start to, you know, kind of assess what that actually what the context is for that, give you a better recommendation. But in general, I'm not going to use the crate as a correction. I'm going to use it as a management tool. That's the short and simple of it right there. And give me some more information on that if you can. Okay, so Connie says this is the Cujo dog. Yeah, we were told she's good with dogs, not so much. Thank you so much. Hey, you're welcome. And that is a common theme that we always hear from people adopting dogs, and I heard it myself when I adopted my recent dog, is, you know, they're good with dogs, they're this, they're that. You just have to understand that, number one, the rescue probably doesn't know that much about the dog. And then number two, they're going to say things just to get you to adopt the dog, right? That's kind of their end goal. Christina says, hope you visit Sydney, Australia sometime. You never know. Do you have any recommendations for leashes, collars for Rottweilers? Yeah, so I like the Fur Saver training collar. We have a link to that on some of our other videos. I will put a link on this live stream probably after the stream's over, and I can edit the description to it. But you can go to basically any video on the channel. Look in the description. There's a link to a Fur Saver training collar. That's what I recommend. And then a leash would be a 6-foot leather leash, which we have a link to that in the video descriptions as well. So yeah, works for any dog, but especially Rottweilers. All right, how would you stop crate barking? She doesn't do it at night for sleep, but does when I leave during the day. Are you leaving for work, or are you just putting her in her crate and you're leaving for a while? So my first protocol would be she probably knows the context that you're leaving. So it could be related to separation anxiety if you're leaving for work or something. So I would be doing, I would change up my routine a little bit, do some exercise and or training combined for enough time right before I leave to where she's ready to rest, and then put her in the crate, let her rest. So I hope that makes sense. Anytime I leave during the day. Yeah, so I'm assuming you're leaving the house, or you're leaving, leaving your place. So she's understanding the context of you leaving. So I would, like I said, adjust my routine a little bit so that I can exercise, mental, physical, energy, exercise and training a little bit before I leave. Put her in the crate. She should be more in a resting mindset, and then leave. She might bark or whine a little bit, but she should settle a lot easier. The other thing I would do is run some short drills during the day. I want you to act like you're leaving. Do a little exercise training, put her in the crate, act like you're leaving, walk out. If she's quiet, walk right back in, act like she's not there. This is a separation anxiety behavior, so check out our separation anxiety deep dive for the specific protocol, but that's kind of the basics of what I would do in that situation. All right, going back to the crate, let's see here. Is it okay to use the crate as a correction? We use the crate for other things too and have been following your crate training videos. Okay, perfect. All right, sometimes my little guy gets nippy, particularly when he's tired. He usually listens to verbal correction no, but sometimes he gets carried away and doesn't. Okay. So we have been using the crate to let him settle, and we let him out when he settled. So that, you know, in my head, that's not really a correction. That's more of just management, and I think that's a good situation to use the crate in. But what I would do is put a leash on him. If he's getting nippy, remove him from the situation, walk him somewhere else in the house or wherever you're living at in the apartment, changing up the context. Once it kind of changes up and he's kind of, you know, in a neutral state, walk him over to his crate, put him in his crate for a little bit, and then take him back out and then do your thing. So I think you're handling it well. The only thing I would add in is just put a leash on, walk him away from where he's at, take him somewhere else in the house, you know, change up the context just a little bit, get him a little bit neutral, and then put him right back put him into the crate for a little bit like you're doing. Let him rest, let him hang out, and then take him out and do other stuff. So that's the only thing I would add to that, but I think you guys are doing a good job. All right, Dexter says, thanks, no problem. Hope that helps. So yeah, I don't like going back to crate corrections. I know that the person asking, they're doing it the right way. But I don't recommend, you know, you're getting angry at your dog. You know, you grab your dog, you just throw him into the crate. That's not a good way to do that. Sounds like you guys that are commenting that you're using the crate for your nippy dog, you're doing it the right way. Seems like you're being neutral about it, which is the main thing. You want your energy to be neutral. And so if I have a situation to where I need to manage my dog, I'm going to put a leash on them, remove them from that situation. It could be jumping on house guests when they come in. It could be your dog's being nippy. It could be your dog is, too aroused or too excitable or causing trouble with another dog that you have, right? It could be a bunch of different situations. But essentially, if it's getting to the point where I'm like, I need a little break here, I need some management, put a leash on your dog, remove your dog from the situation with the leash and your body language, you know, walk them to a different room, walk them to a different spot in the house, whatever you're doing, then put them in the crate for a little bit just as a management tool. And then whenever you're ready, take your dog back out. Now, long term, with my training, right? My training progression, whether you're following the full 12-step progression that I just did in a recent podcast, or if you're doing the consolidated 6-step progression that I've got in our free 6-step training guide, you guys can download at the link. Whichever one you're doing, as I work through that progression, at a certain point, when I get to my off-leash training, I should be able to communicate with my dog, right? So for example, in the nippy situation, especially when he's getting tired, right? In that situation, my dog's getting nippy, I say no, right? They should be stopping what they're doing, right? And then I would redirect them, you know, Fido, place, Fido, down, whatever their name is, name first, command second, whatever their name is, redirect them. So they're being nippy, I say no to correct the behavior, let them know, hey, we're not doing that. Then I redirect them. If they're not responding, I'm going to say no again. I'm going to then apply a correction. So that's how I would handle that in the future, right? Some situations, like jumping on a guest, for example. Let's say you got some guests walking in and your dog's being a little bit jumpy on your guests. In that particular situation, you know, you can say no. As soon as your dog stops jumping, they don't have to be redirected. They can continue hanging out with the guests. They can continue doing whatever they're doing. And then at that point, you know, no redirection needed, no correction needed. But if they jump again, no correction, right? That's when you're going to give them a correction, right? So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, you said, I like the redirection feedback. Yeah, try that out. Didn't think of that. That's what we're doing this for, helping you out, right? All right, get a little sip here. That's good, dude. All right. I don't see any other questions pending here. Like I was saying at the beginning, a couple more things we're working on. I am doing a deep dive video because we adopted a 8-year-old miniature pinscher. So it's basically like a little Chihuahua, right? And I have my 11-year-old Doberman, who you guys have seen in videos before. He's laying right here on the couch. You can see behind me, he's sleeping. He does have couch privileges, by the way. He has earned those. But what we've done with him, in particular on the couch, we've implemented 2 commands. One, we say off. If we say off, his job is to get off of the couch. So my kids know, he has to get off the couch if my kids are going to get on the couch, right? So if my kids are going to the couch and, like, let's say he's sleeping like this, they're going to say off. He's going to get off. They're going to get on the couch. And if they want him on the couch with them, they can tell him that it's okay to get up. But the other thing we've implemented, see this little table right here? Sometimes my kids eat right there. And so the other thing we've implemented, because, this guy, he loves kid food. He loves those chicken nuggets like me. So if the kids are eating right here and he's kind of showing too much attention in whatever they're eating, they're going to tell him away. And when they say away, he takes a couple steps back and gives them some space. But of course we have his place command. His place is actually behind this couch over here. And so if they say place, then his job is to go all the way over to his place, which is like an orthopedic bed. And then he'll lay on that until he's told to get up. So those are just some easy ways to provide some redirection and management in the house, with your dog. But you have to work on that. You have to train that, right? We adopted this 8-year-old miniature pinscher. He's not at that level, right? He's not at that level. So he's still on a leash in the house. He's being guided around to where he needs to go. So I'm going to do a full video deep dive on how we're working with him. How should I respond when my Rottweiler nudges with his nose to get my attention? So I would say it depends on the context, right? If you're just hanging out with your dog, because this guy will do it too, Yeah, if you're just hanging out with your dog and they're, kind of nudging you a little bit, sometimes it's fine to pet them. That's your dog. They love your attention. You want to pet them. They want you to touch them. But you also have to be aware. You have to be conscious of sometimes how that could work against you, right? So if you're out in public and they're doing that very demanding, number one, that could be an indication that he's a little bit uncomfortable. He's trying to seek some comfort from muzzle nudging you. But number two, they're kind of being excessive in their demands. And so if I'm getting that excessive demand from them, I'm probably not going to pet them, right? If I'm out training and they're doing that, I'm probably not going to pet them. You're saying, hey, he does it all the time. Let's see, he does it all the time. Yeah, so that's probably some form of anxiety, trying to get some kind of satisfaction. I'd probably, for the most part, not pet him. I would just kind of act like that's not happening. And if he's being really demanding, I would then turn it into, whatever his name is, buddy sit, buddy down. I would turn it into something like that. Once he sits, then I might pet him real quick and then stop petting him, or have him down. Once he downs, I might pet him real quick and then stop petting him. But I don't want him to get into the habit of demanding attention all the time, especially if he's in a anxious mindset and he's doing it because he's anxious, right? I don't want to foster anxiety. But if I'm just sitting on the couch like this with this guy and he's kind of nudging me a little bit, that's fine. It's a little bit different context. But if it gets excessive, then I'm going to say, hey, no, and go from there. Speaking of fostering anxiety and insecurity, be careful of that, right? So if you have a dog, let's say you're working on your training, progression, there are a couple things that you could notice between your sessions, or if you're just hanging out in your house, there's a couple things you might notice that could indicate your dog is being a little bit anxious, or that could indicate that your dog is being, insecure. And so anxious dogs, they might be pacing, they might be panting when it's not hot, right? They might be shaking. They might just be unable to settle down. They might be like chasing themselves, running in circles and all that. So if you're seeing all this type of activity, that could mean that your dog's being a little bit anxious. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if I have not opposite end, but like on another hand, if I have a dog who's insecure, nervous, fearful, there's a couple things you might notice with that dog. One, like, we were talking about earlier, it might be, following you all the time, stalking you, shadowing you, Velcro dogging you. It might be up underneath your furniture. It might be tucked up in a corner of your house. It might prefer to be up against the couch or underneath a table. These are all potential indications of an insecure, nervous, fearful dog. So whether you have an anxious dog showing those behaviors, or you have a insecure, nervous, fearful dog showing those behaviors, ideally, you know, as we're doing our training and management, we want to foster confidence. So we want to try and not allow the anxious or insecure behaviors to be practiced. We don't want a lot of repetitions of those behaviors. So if you're noticing these things with your dog, you know, depending on what stage of training you're at, you could do a couple things. One, you could put your dog on a leash and have them remain close to you. You could put your dog in their crate. You could put your dog on the place command in your house. You could put your dog in a downstay. Keep in mind that a downstay and a place command are generally going to be calming behavior. So if you're doing those behaviors, you're going to help foster calmness in your dog's head and your dog's mind as time goes on. But just something to note, since we were talking about, you know, the constant asking for attention. So let me know what you guys think about that, or if you're seeing any of that with your own dog. Okay, we got a question. When I'm walking my dog and we walk by a backyard with two dogs behind a fence that start barking like crazy, running around, I ignore these dogs, keep walking like they aren't there. That's exactly the way you should do it. Supplemental follow-up comment. Sometimes my dog will get a little excited. Okay, sometimes my dog will get a little excited and whining. It sounds like, though, you're doing the right thing. You just keep walking by. You act like the dogs aren't there. I like how you say that. It's just another day. It's just another distraction, right? Me and my dog, we're just walking right by these crazy dogs. Sometimes my dog will get excited and whining. You know, if that's all they're doing, I would just keep walking. I would have my dog in heel position. I would just keep walking. I would act like my dog is doing nothing. I would act like these dogs are not doing anything else, right? But with that being said, if my dog kind of escalates their behavior, right? Let's say the whining and the excitedness start turning into, now my dog's starting to, you know, try to go up to the fence, try to pull on the leash a little bit, right? And those types of situations, I'm going to say no. I'm going to correct that. I'm going to make sure my dog maintains heel position. I'm going to make sure my dog, in the presence of these other dogs at the fence going crazy, I'm going to make sure my dog can pay attention to me, give me good eye contact. So hopefully that just gives you some things to think about. If I'm at a very high level in my training progression and my training progression is going very well, and I have this situation where there's a yard with two reactive dogs behind it, to me, I'm like, perfect. This is a great distraction opportunity. So I'll either just walk by it. Sometimes I might stop, do a downstay by it. I want my dog looking at me versus the reactive dogs at the fence. Might do a sit stay, might do a come command. I might throw in random obedience commands, right? So I'm going to use that distraction to my advantage. And when I normally do this, the people who own those dogs, they're getting upset. You know, like, will you keep walking? Will you walk by? Just stop standing there. Like, you know, it's my fault that their dogs are reacting at the fence and they don't like their dogs reacting at the fence. I'm like, why don't you just work on the behavior yourself? All right, hope that makes sense. All right, guys, well, I'm going to be wrapping this up here in just a minute. Let me know if you have any last minute questions. I appreciate everyone being here. I'm trying to do these more often. So if you're finding value from the live Q&As, let me know. I might also, because on the last Q&A, I had some questions about, you know, the science of dog training, right? So some people were asking about operant conditioning. Some people were asking about, or they didn't ask, but classical conditioning, right? So if you guys think that would be a good idea, I would maybe put together a little bit of a live training on operant conditioning and classical conditioning, so that you can understand the science behind what we're doing, you know, how it really works scientifically. You know, when I learned that from Michael Ellis, it blew my mind, right? And then that really helped me learn how to pick apart little behaviors as I'm working on them with dogs, and you know, be able to assess what could I do to help improve this behavior or work on, you know, whatever behavior is going on at the time. I know meeting other dogs on leash isn't the best practice. What are tips to get my dog to approach dogs on leash calmly to greet them? This is something that's been coming up a lot for me recently. I am trying to figure out a good way to get some content on this. I think I put out a post last week about greeting dogs. Check out the community tab on the channel. I know I've done a podcast in the past about introducing dogs, so you can look that up as well. But the best way to introduce two dogs, I'm assuming this is not like your friend's dog. I'm assuming this is, like a random dog you see on the street and you're interested in your dog greeting that dog. But, kind of my protocol, I want to have a walk where the dogs are around each other. They're not making contact, but they're, they can see each other, they can smell each other, they can hear each other. We're walking, right? If everything's looking good, I'm going to start switching positions so that one dog's in front, one dog's in the rear. I'm going to switch positions again so that one dog's in the front, one dog's in the rear. I'm going to keep switching those positions, making sure everything's looking good. And again, this depends on the two dogs. Some dogs need a lot of walks, a lot of these change up of positions. Some dogs can do it very, very quickly, right? But basically, at some point, you want those dogs to be able to come up and sniff the butt of the other dog. You switch positions, sniff the butt. If all that looks good, then they can meet. You can do it on leash if you want. That's fine, because you've done all this preliminary work. If one of the dogs gets uncomfortable, you just remove them, right? But basically, that's the process. I want to make sure the dogs get as comfortable as possible. But yeah, you can do that on leash. It's really not a big deal. It's just, taking it in stride, not rushing the dogs together, but slowly letting the dogs get used to each other. I hope that makes sense. I appreciate it, Christina. Good night. Hope you have a good rest, and we'll see you next time. No problem for the info. That's what we're here for. Really appreciate everything you do. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Yeah, check out the podcast. If you can't find the podcast, just drop your question either in the post community tab or on the live stream once it's posted. I'll see if I can find it, send it to you. But you should be able to type in Canine Revolution, introducing dogs onto YouTube search, and it should pop it up for you. All right. Glad everybody found some value today. Thank you guys for being here. I'm about to go start training some more dogs. So hope you guys have a great afternoon or evening, wherever you're at in the world. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys on the next live stream. And in the meantime, check out the other content that we're putting out. And appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next time.